Welcome everybody. We'll get started in 2 minutes. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. We will be getting started in 1 minute. As we go through the presentation, feel free to familiarize yourself with the menu and the Q&A section. That's where you can post questions. All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to today's educational program, World Expo 2020, a blueprint for future smart cities, brought to you by IoT World and sponsored by Siemens. I'm Lucian Fogoros, I'm the co-founder of IoT World, and on behalf of my team, thank you for joining. Our co-founder Carolina will be monitoring the online channel, so feel free to send your questions in the Q&A section as well as via social channels, leveraging the hashtag SIE_Expo 2020. Now, IoT World visited the site in Dubai, the Expo 2020 site, almost about a year ago. So we're looking forward to about an hour and a half of updates around the smart city options, how they've connected about 137 buildings, and the opportunities for startups, the scale to Dubai. So with that, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Greg Orloff, who will host our virtual conference today. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Lucian. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Now, before we dive into today's session, please allow me to give those who are attending for the first time a little background on us. IIoT World is a digital media publication that covers the economic and technological implications of the transformation taking place as industrial IoT proliferates throughout the enterprise. IIoT World combines journalistic coverage with data analysis to expose the stories, players, trends, and innovations that shape the IIoT. IIoT World was recently ranked by K-Core Analytics as the #1 global influencer on several topics that include industrial IoT, smart manufacturing, ICS security, SCADA, predictive analytics, and predictive maintenance. Our mission is to help companies create a culture of innovation and connect the smarts, industrial technology, manufacturing, sensors, and the CXO decision makers who seek these solutions. Now today we have an exciting panel that personally I've been looking forward to with representation from Siemens and Expo 2020 Dubai. In this virtual conference, we will learn how technology can dramatically enhance life in cities while simultaneously reducing the environmental impact of the metropolitan areas as well. While technology runs in the background, invisible to most people, every one of the 25 million people who visit the World Expo will benefit from it. As the Infrastructure Digitalization Partner at Expo 2020 Dubai, Siemens is turning the entire site into a showcase for smart applications and creating a blueprint for future smart cities to emulate. The technologies being leveraged for this event can be applied to other cities that are developing smart infrastructure and help them to make decisions that will optimize their operations and reduce emissions and waste. Now, the key topics covered today are going to encompass how to turn big data into smart data, making cities better for society and the environment, how to integrate a city's infrastructure into the Internet of Things, how tech embraces and enhances sustainability in cities, for example, energy optimization in buildings, green hydrogen, and IoT. How has District 2020 been designed with the future in mind? The development of the post-Expo site known as District 2020. Applications and use cases focusing on waste management, environmental monitoring, public safety, smart buildings and utilities, and smart operations will be covered. Our first session today, Siemens Expo 2020 Premier Partnership for Infrastructure Digitalization, will be presented by Mr. Oliver Kraft. Mr. Kraft is the Executive Director of Expo 2020 for Siemens LLC in Dubai, and he has led Expo-related projects and account management activities since 2017. From 2014 to 2017, Oliver was Senior Vice President of Operational Excellence in Corporate Technology at Siemens AG, providing guidance on manufacturing optimization, product lifecycle management, and innovation excellence, as well as managing Siemens' operating model. From 2012 to 2014, he headed the global Siemens Energy Cost Out program, and prior to that role, he held positions in finance, audit, and consulting in Germany and the United States, including the position of CFO of Siemens Concentrated Solar Power. Outstanding to have you here today, Oliver. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Actually, I can also speak on behalf of my colleagues. We truly appreciate to have the opportunity to talk to all of you today about one of the most exciting projects on the planet as of now. And hopefully at the end of that session, you will be on the very same page and will agree with us that this is something to look forward to. Now, before I took the job in 2017, of course, I did my homework. And what I learned about expos is that there are 4 kind of expos. There are World Expos, there are horticultural expos, there are specialized expos, and design expos. The second thing I learned is that over time, the expos developed from a pure technology focus into a global platform for dialogue and for collaboration. The third thing I learned very easily is, and you can do it yourself, if you just Google the term Expo 2020, you will get about 680 million results, which is triple the times of if you would Google Expo 2010, which achieved only 250 million. And Expo 2000 achieved, I think it was 210 million, something like that. So now, and then the next thing, which I also found very impressive, and we will later on hear about it from Nadine, who's going to present District 2020 activities, is that Expo 2020, everything we will discuss here, the majority of it will remain a legacy. So it means the site has been designed from day one for legacy use. And that is one of the biggest distinguishing factors compared to other Expo 2020s. Now, to other expos, World Expos. And by the way, Siemens has a very long-standing history with expos. Actually, we participated ever since. We've been participating since the first one in 1851, which was just 3 years after our company got founded. Now, you see a picture of how the site could look like. Not all the details, and later on we will explain much more, but with its main theme, connecting minds and creating the future of Expo, and the sub-themes, mobility, opportunity, and sustainability, Expo 2020 will address the main topics of our time. And mobility, the first thing that always comes to mind is, of course, it's about moving goods, but it's much more. It's about connecting people, connecting ideas, connecting minds in the end. Opportunity, how do we create ecosystems which foster innovation and promote education? And sustainability, in my very, very short understanding, means how can we do more for Mother Earth by using less resources? So overall, Expo 2020 will be the biggest mega event in the world on the one hand side, but it will also be the biggest platform for the world's greatest innovators, inventors, pragmatists, idealists, but also for families and for people like you and me, and basically for everybody with high hopes for the future, which is then also a very interesting fact for us, because in addition to a mega event, we view Expo 2020 as a future smart city. And why is that important? We know that there is hardly any environment out there as of today which is fully dumb. And we can speed up the process of making environments smarter by sharing what we have. Now, considering that this is the biggest platform, of course, there's lots of opportunity to share our thoughts, our ideas, and technologies. And without going into all the details, because you will later on hear also from Nadine about it, the Expo 2020 will open its gates on October 20 and will last 6 months. And yes, 80% of what you see here will remain in the future. Now, with up to 300,000 visitors coming in per day, yes, it will face the challenges of a mega event, but also the challenges of a smart city. Why smart city? Because when we talk about 4.38 square kilometers, that means we are talking about a size which is twice the size of Monaco. Now, with that being said, the question is, how can such a smart city campus actually benefit from digital technology? And I know that you're all familiar with that, so let's keep it short on that one. However, just a few examples. In the area of comfort and health, digital tech will allow us to optimize air pollution and reduce noise. Imagine in England alone, in the year 2018, they had call-outs for rescue services, and out of these call-outs for rescue services, 41% were based on false alarms. Surveillance, access control, all kinds of security measures, together with intelligent traffic management, will in the end allow not only a smart and safe commute, but also an easy dispatch and a safe and reliable arrival of rescue services or the police, which will result in an increase in security. Now, if you take a look at that picture, of course, you see buildings. I mean, buildings have been identified as the biggest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions globally. And commercial and residential buildings, overall, they account for roughly 30% of the worldwide energy consumption. Now, a company who is able to optimize the performance of a building, for example, in terms of energy optimization or consumption, holds the biggest lever in terms of sustainability within any built environment or urban environment or smart city environment. And we as a company, I'm very proud to say, we do. So, however, everything in the city generates data. So it's a data generating machine, and data is actually the kind of the glue for the connectivity of the raw material which is surrounding us all the time. And I want to give you a few examples of data generating devices. Like, for example, a Siemens gas turbine generates 11 terabytes per annum, while, for example, a Siemens CT scanner generates already 22 terabytes per annum. Our traffic management system, which we implemented in Potsdam, generates 2,990 terabytes already. And you're already getting my drift, it goes up. Smart wearables, 28,000 terabytes, expected to be generated by the year 2020. But now it comes. Think about smart buildings. 37 billion terabytes. So that's a huge number, or in other words, 37 zettabytes. Now, we all understand that there is this raw material out there surrounding us 24/7 called big data. It is one thing to collect big data, it is another to use them intelligently. In order to do that, you need, of course, to understand how IoT works. So you need to have an IoT operating system which allows us to gather all these data, to analyze, to contextualize, and in the end, to allow intelligent decision making. Or if you want to run AI or machine learning applications, then this will even serve as a recommendation for the decision which will be in the end taken by a human or a machine. And we will later on hear from Afsar more about the value and the importance of the Internet of Things. Now, why does it matter? Let me go back one slide. Okay, now, Siemens as a company, of course, we have IoT capability because we employ 29,000 software engineers. But if you want to turn data into value, then it helps a lot if you also have domain know-how. So we as a company, we are not only having these kind of skills, but we also produce things. We own 200 manufacturing facilities, and we employ roughly 100,000 people in manufacturing around the globe. And the company has been in existence for 170 years, active in digitalization, electrification, and automation. So that means we are in a unique position actually to offer packages of engineered solutions, of products, of systems, and of course, of software. And this, the next slide just gives you a glimpse into what we are doing with respect to our company core technology field. So we have a central group, corporate technology. Greg mentioned earlier, I also was with corporate technology in Munich. We have also offices in Princeton and close to Stanford, and in other places in the world, like in India, for example. And these fields you see here, these we define centrally as central research fields for the company. In addition to that, of course, we have our own individual research activities in our operating companies and the company core. Now, Expo 2020. When we started our engagement with Expo 2020, we thought about what are technologies which will help us to turn the city campus of Expo into a smart city campus. And for that activity, we focused on corporate safety and security. And in the area of security, we selected Surveillance Vantage, where we will put 15,000 cameras on campus to make sure that 300,000, up to 300,000 visitors on a daily basis will be kept safe and sound. We will connect 3,500 doors via CPaaS, integrated access control, and of course we will provide surveillance and video management systems. However, as I said earlier, we also produce things. So we will provide HVAC controlled sensors, but also a building management system, which will allow us to access 210,000 data points, and Navigator, which is an energy optimization platform, cloud-based, which allows us to connect more than 137 buildings on site. Furthermore, I'm very proud to say that we provide 2 substations to Expo, and we will pilot the first green hydrogen storage solutions in the region. Now, there's one element which glues it all together, and that's called MindSphere. MindSphere is our IoT operating platform, which helps actually to gather all these data, to analyze, to contextualize, but also to visualize, and you can run all kinds of applications. And in a little bit from now, you will hear more about it. Key takeaway is with MindSphere, we will bring Expo on IoT. That means we will have to establish the most connected Expo ever. And that relates to Siemens data and non-Siemens data. Together, of course, with the help of our partners, because we are part of a family of partners of 12 and Expo. So, and what you see here is a picture about our hydrogen storage solution in the region. I mean, in the end, it's a huge box, which is roughly 60 meters long and roughly 3 meters tall, and will be placed at the Al-Maktoum Solar Park, which is one of the largest solar parks in the world with an output of 400 megawatt. And what we're actually doing is we're using solar energy in order to split water into oxygen molecules and hydrogen molecules. And then later on, we will use the hydrogen in order to store the energy. And last but not least, it then can be used to re-electrify by feeding it back to the grid. So we always say letting the sun shine at night. Because, so next slide. There we go. Yeah, so overall, let me summarize my part of the presentation. If you think about 4.4 square kilometers of the site, which is twice the size of Monaco. If you think about that, the site has been designed from the very beginning to exist in the future. If you now think about that you have 300,000 people coming in every day, or up to 300,000 people, yes, we will help to create the biggest mega event in the world. However, also we will create a blueprint for future smart cities. And with that being said, I would like to hand over to my colleague Afzal, who will guide us through Mindshare and IoT.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for the participants joining from the region here. So Greg, I'm set to go, or you want to come in?
Absolutely, I can come in. You guys are jumping ahead of me. I love the enthusiasm. No, it's fantastic. I appreciate the insight that you just shared with us too. One of the statistics that just jumped out at me from that presentation is 300,000 visitors a day is the target. Just to put that into perspective, that's about 6 times roughly Walt Disney World attendance in a day. So chew on that for a section while we move on to our next speaker. So thank you very much, Afzal. Our next presentation, MindSphere at the World Expo 2020. And our speaker is Afzal Shahbaz Mohammed, and he is the head of command and control team. And he joined Siemens LLC in October 2010, and he is head of the MindSphere and command and control session for Expo 2020. And he's been doing this role since 2018. Now, until December 2017, he was head of business development and strategy of the building technologies divisions for the lower Gulf region. And with a key role was to drive strategy. Now, also head of the business development team, he led cross-divisional collaboration for the building technologies division and headed the bid team for the large enterprise projects. And he was also responsible for driving smart city digitalization and innovation through initiatives in the region. His experience spans over 20 years of critical enterprise projects across Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. Also holds a Master's of Business Administration and Information Systems. Afzal, now my friend, the floor is yours. Please tell us about MindSphere.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for that introduction. So let me go through the slides. Okay. Just want to take from where Oliver actually left. Oliver talked about data, Oliver talked about IoT, Oliver talked about various systems coming together, and the key thing, Expo. It's all about Expo. So what are we doing at Expo? And what is MindSphere all about? So to connect the dots, what is MindSphere? MindSphere is an open IoT operating system, which is cloud independent. It can go on AWS, it can go on Azure, we can do Azure Stack. We can also do Alibaba for Chinese market. So for Expo, we are doing on AWS. And for MindSphere, the way it works is, you can bring the data from various systems. It could be Siemens, non-Siemens. We are talking about protocol independence. It could be on-prem, gateway, sensor, enterprise system, or social media for that matter. We can get the data from various systems. The data is getting ingested into the MindSphere, and then we process the data there on MindSphere. MindSphere is software as a service and platform as a service together, because we take care of it end to end. So prominently, when the data is there, you subscribe to services, and based on the service and subscriptions, you match up your data, and you can actually visualize the data on the custom build applications, or just have quick view through certain services. Or Siemens has acquired, last year we talked about Mendix. With this, we can actually visualize the data. It's like a low-code, no-code app development. We also support edge devices, which are Siemens and non-Siemens. We also have edge analytics, so edge apps and so on and so forth. So in a nutshell, that's MindSphere for you. And for Expo, we are delivering the IoT operating system on MindSphere. I'll just add some context to what Oliver has already said. I think he covered a lot about what we're doing on Siemens World. But just imagine, it's merely not the numbers what you see on the screen. It's more than that. If you look at the volume, velocity, and variety of data which we're generating in Expo, and that being aggregated and ingested into MindSphere, then how we process that, how this data is visualized at various users, I would say, This is what you need to look at, and Nadime will cover that for District 2020. When we talk about IoT, big data, and so on and so forth, this all is complementary thing going forward, how the technology complements the city of the future. So here we're talking about creating a blueprint of smart city because of the volume, variety, and velocity of data we are managing on MindSphere. Let me actually browse you through. I just have a slide to show you more in details to connect the dots. So assume that this is more like an architecture of Expo for event phase, and I have taken a liberty to also touch on the District 2020 for the autonomous vehicles and so on and so forth, what Expo has aspirations to build that in. Just imagine you're generating data in various subsystems. Oliver talked about IoT, operating system, challenges of data and everything. Imagine all these systems are generating tons of data. To make it meaningful, to actually derive the value of that, you should be able to correlate, contextualize, and manage it properly. So we actually are able to do it on MindSphere. When I say that, assume the data is generated from various data sources, what you see on this slide deck. I just have few listed here, but it could be any, including social media. So we are not restricting the data as a structured or OT data. We're talking about structured, unstructured, semi-structured, any kind of data we can bring in, we can process on a MindSphere platform. I'm now giving the context of Expo event itself. We're talking, Oliver talked about 130 plus buildings. Just imagine every single building has this technology, what you see on the building infrastructure, and multiply that by 130 plus times. So that's a volume and velocity. We're talking about a variety of data. In addition to that, we have certain utility data coming in, and we actually aggregate. We don't bring everything, so we don't need to boil the ocean if it's not needed. So we're not bringing we're not trying to do a point-to-point connectivity here. We're not trying to lift and shift and mash up. We're trying to just bring the data what is relevant. And this is where the technology, knowledge, know-how is a good combination. This is where we are bringing it together. So we aggregate the data, what is relevant, and that moves into MindSphere for the processing, analysis, visualization, and situational awareness. And that's what we're looking at. Once the data is available in MindSphere, it can stay there and we can do pretty much everything there. So let me give an example when we say that. You can visualize the data, analyze the data, or you can actually start doing something higher on the analytics. How about predictive analytics? How about actually bringing on the machine learning and create some models and then actually take it from there? So we're talking about data stays in MindSphere. We don't have to create one more part of MindSphere to manage such topics. And visualizing, like I've said, for Expo, we are building some custom applications for Expo for various stakeholders to give them the role-based access and the visuals. And what we're going to have for Expo is also a very intuitive visualization through a mixed reality where we're connecting the physical world virtually. I can't disclose anything beyond this because that should be a surprise. We want you to be an Expo to see what we have done and appreciate. So with that, I will move on to the next slide. So that's more like a teaser I have for you when we talk about smart city application, which is MindSphere native. It's a web app what we're developing for Expo, which has a holistic picture. So city has got multiple domains. When you talk about, it could be sustainability, it could be related to irrigation, it could be related to alarms, events, monitoring, and so on and so forth. So we're getting data from various systems, and this application what we are developing for Expo, which will be live by July this year from our side, June, July. It has all the elements of scalability, configurability, reusability, and so on and so forth. So we're not restricting the number of use cases, but again, we are also guided by what Expo needs during the event phase, but it has the capability to actually add on or enhance when we move into District 2020, if in case there are new systems to be added. So with that, I can say we're going to manage the structured and unstructured data. We have an integrated data lake, and we also have a semantic data modeling. I use a word called correlation contextualization. It's something good to know, because when you talk about big data, volumes of data, variety of data, and if you don't correlate, it's of no use. So for you to actually derive the value, it's always good to know what's the adjacent system doing. Does it have any dependency on other operations? How do we bring the situational awareness? So to do that, we're using a combination of integrated data lake and SDI, which is nothing but semantic data interconnect. So it's nothing but an extraction, and it correlates and correlates and combines data and it helps us to visualize the data with using various services. This is an interesting thing, what you see on the screen. It is actually Sustainability Pavilion. It's named as Terra. Expo is expecting about 9 million visitors to visit this pavilion. It's a piece of art by itself, and I can bet on this. Whoever's going to visit this, I'm sure there will be a changed person when you leave this pavilion, because it has got all the right kind of messages to actually educate, create awareness, and make you responsible actually to have to burden the not to burden the mother earth. That's what we call it, right? So it's for all age groups, for example, from the school to the technologists. What we're trying to do is we're contributing to sustainability topic from our end, but there are a lot of other interactions what Expo is also working on. What are we doing? Terra is a living thing. It can feel, it can communicate. So what we're trying to do is how much of energy is generated, how much of that is actually used, how much of water is actually consumed, how much of that is recycled. We are mashing up the data with weather data, we're mashing up the data with people. What we're talking about is data coming in, like how many people are in the third area. What is unique in Expo sustainability topic is we are doing an energy usage index. That means we're not just capturing the data from the meters and say that's what is the consumption. What we're trying to do is get the data from the meters, look at the area per square meter, how it is, how many people in that area, what was the weather, and we're looking at the environmental conditions. That's how we arrive at EUI, Energy Usage Index, and Water Usage Index, and similarly, we are talking about waste topic. So with that, I would say, I will just take you to the next slide, and with that, I will conclude it. It's more about the use cases at Expo. What we can see is we are fairly advanced, and we have concluded certain use cases, and we're just into development phase. There are certain use cases still in discussion, so that's the reason I've kept a few use cases in highlight mode. Expo can decide whether they really want to go that far and do it, but you can see the ones which are highlighted clearly. We are moving ahead with that. So this is what is one thing I want you to notice: a variety of use cases coming onto one platform, data being managed and mashed up. With that, I'm actually concluding my presentation, and I'll hand over this back to Greg.
Thank you, Afzal, for walking us through the central nervous system of Dubai 2020 and District 2020. Fantastic capabilities that MindSphere is projected to do for this event. Now, I'd like to press on to our final session now, and this is going to be Connecting Minds, Creating the Future, where we will hear from Nadima Mehra, and she's Vice President of District 2020 and Expo 2020 Dubai. Now, Ms. Mehra joined Expo 2020 Dubai in early 2015 and has the responsibility of overseeing the commercial development of the post-Expo site known as District 2020. Prior to joining Expo 2020, she headed the Development Capital Division of the United Arab Emirates-based Daman Investments for 10 years, where she had the responsibility of overseeing the identification, evaluation, marketing, and management of selected investment opportunities, from initial concept through investment or acquisition. Throughout her career, Ms. Mehra has worked with UAE government institutions on foreign direct investment, entrepreneurship development, as well as venture capital, and worked in North America, franchising, and entrepreneurship. Attending the University of San Diego, California, she graduated with a BS in speech communications in 1994 and went on to study operational management at the University of Phoenix, graduating with a Master's of Organizational Management in 1997. Nadima, I'm excited to hear what you have to share with us today. Now, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you so much, Greg. It's a pleasure to be with you all this morning, this afternoon, or this evening. I'm delighted to be able to share what we're very excited about, and we're in the home stretch now. We're in 2020, so it's just around the corner at what we will call the world's greatest show. So what is a World Expo? My colleagues before me, Oliver and Afzal did a great job explaining it, but really it's a festival of imagination. It's a place where the world can come together and showcase innovation, showcase culture, and enjoy every moment as they learn and share ideas and business opportunities with each other. This expo, as you know, is taking place from October 20th, 2020 until April 10th, 2021. It's the first expo ever to be in the winter months, because normally the summer here in Dubai, for those of you that have never come, is very hot. So it will be during the winter months where the weather is pleasant and everybody can enjoy the outdoors. It is the first expo in the Middle East, Africa, and Southeast Asia region. And we are the first expo as well, and this is very special, where we are giving every country one pavilion. And so this means that we had to build a lot of infrastructure to be able to support this vision of being able to give all countries one pavilion. We expect 25 million visits. Now, what is unique about this is that 70% of our expected visitors will be from international visits. That means around 30% of our visitors will be domestic visitors. We already talked about the themes, so I'm just gonna go back to that to show that the opportunity, mobility, and sustainability themes are represented by our thematic pavilions, which we have, we already talked about the sustainability pavilion called Terra. The mobility pavilion, as Oliver mentioned, it will explore content and themes around the movement of goods, people, and data. And opportunity is around the themes of unlocking the potential within individuals. Okay. So this is the site, and it is a big site. It's 4.38 square kilometers. And you can see that the plan is split up within the thematics. We've got mobility district, opportunity district, and sustainability district. And in those little petals that you see are all the buildings. There's about 86 individual buildings that we have built for permanent use that will be used as an exhibition for a period of time. And then it will go back to actually a different type of use. We have a mandate, as Oliver mentioned earlier, to repurpose 80% of everything that we build for the expo. And you're going to see what that turns into in just a little bit when I start talking about District 2020. I'm just going to show a little video about the expo, so where we are located in the world. If it works. Okay, so what that video really did was just take you through kind of, there we go. No, it doesn't want to play, it's fine. It takes you through a sneak peek of what you can expect to see at the expo. It takes you on a journey so that you can see the size and scale of everything that we're talking about when we want to build the smart city requirements there we go. So you can see we're just zooming in on the United Arab Emirates in Dubai. That's the expo site itself that you've already seen. And the metro, that takes 45,000 passengers per hour, and it takes you right into the public realm of the expo. This is the Al Wasl Dome, which is 65 meters high and is the largest projectable dome in the world. And you can see that all these concourses here that have been built are very wide, and there was a specific reason for that, so that they can turn into roads very quickly post-event. That's the mobility pavilion that you're looking at right now, and the mobility concourse. And you can see how 300,000 visitors should have ample room to move around and explore. That's the sustainability pavilion, and which is 100% off the grid and fully sustainable, and will remain thereafter. That's the UAE pavilion that you see to your left. That's designed by Calatrava. And again, we're moving into Al Wasl Dome, where a lot of the mega events will happen. And you can have about 10,000 people within that space. So we look forward to welcome you all to Expo 2020 in just a few months. And now I'm going to shift focus a little bit and talk about what I actually do here at the Expo, which is, you know, we call it the legacy, but I like to call it the future. It's really the future of what this Expo will turn into, and the legacy that it will leave behind as a result of our ambitions and our vision for the future district. So District 2020 will host the Expo for 6 months. And we say this because we always planned that we would build Expo 2020 to be a city and host an event for 6 months, and then the event goes away, but the city remains. So again, that's the reason why we work so closely with Siemens on the smart city technologies, et cetera, because a lot of the things that we're in discussions now will actually live on into District 2020. So we will retain more than 260,000 square meters of GFA, which is gross floor area, of LEED Gold infrastructure. And for those of you that prefer it in square feet, that's about 2.6 million square feet of space that we have built for the Expo event. And when we take those back from the Expo, we will repurpose them and transition them into residential, commercial, and cultural neighborhoods within District 2020. The District 2020 Master Plan was designed specifically to create a human-centric, smart, and sustainable community, which means combining the enablers of human well-being with advanced technology. We will repurpose Expo's advanced physical infrastructure, including smart buildings and transport, green spaces, and cultural attractions. The built assets that I talked about will include 55 LEED Gold commercial buildings that are low-rise commercial, and more than 800 modern residential units. And they're very close in proximity to each other, and that's part of our urban planning. We also, because of the Expo, we will have a hotel that we are building on the site right now that will be operational. And then immediately after the Expo, we will begin building the second hotel as well. Now, the location that you're looking at, the map right now, is, you know, again, for those of you that are not familiar with the UAE, it's a strategic location because we're 45 minutes away from Dubai International Airport, which is one of the world's busiest airports. And Abu Dhabi International Airport is 45 minutes away as well. So from a connectivity perspective, for the Expo, it's excellent. But for District 2020, it's equally impressive because we're in what is called the growth corridor of Dubai. So the central business district is becoming a bit congested. It's a little expensive. And to do what we want to do, we need to go someplace that we've got the freedom to look at the pricing and the ability to see our vision through. So District 2020 is a place designed to connect, create, and innovate. It will be one of the most connected and tech-enabled destinations for working, living, and exploring, which is very unique for Dubai. So it's a truly mixed-use development that has residential, commercial, hospitality, event space, cultural attractions, museums, educational institutions, and this all goes towards a future-proofing district, as we like to call it, within Dubai. So when you look at the value chain of District 2020, our innovation ecosystem is critical. It's a critical component. It fed into a lot of our master planning design and public realm design, because what we plan to do is create a strategic, curated innovation ecosystem that is aligned with Dubai's vision for the future. Now, the government of Dubai is aggressively moving Dubai towards the innovation economy and launching a series of different government initiatives to ensure that we do enter into the innovation economy and become leaders within the region. And so to enable that to happen, our strategy mirrors what the government strategy is by providing an opportunity to industries that you see listed there and the technologies to be able to collaborate. And furthermore, part of our mandate as a master developer is to ensure that we provide accelerators and incubators, the co-working spaces, the R&D centers, et cetera, that are required to make this ecosystem a success. When we looked at the master plan and design, it was designed, as I had mentioned, to be a truly integrated mixed-use development that aims to enhance the quality of life within the community and create a sustainable way of living and working. In fact, we're the first community in the region to be registered under the WELL Community Standard Pilot by the International Wellbeing Institute. So what the WELL Institute does, it looks at the people living and working within a building and gauging how happy and healthy they are. So we look at green spaces, quality of air, et cetera, within the buildings themselves. And it sets the aim a global benchmark for healthy communities. Sustainable living attracts residents and companies, and an incentive program will drive sustainable behavior, which is very important to us. Furthermore, we are being benchmarked by our municipal arm, which is called the Dubai Municipality, with regards to being one of the first transit-oriented developments within Dubai. And that's because of our smart mobility strategy and our innovative approach to urban planning. Our advanced physical and digital infrastructure will support innovation by enabling companies to be faster, more intelligent, and better connected with each other. 5G, IoT, blockchain, and big data will empower companies of all sizes to drive their industry forward. Digital services and infrastructure will be right-sized to the business needs of District 2020 in terms of cost, simplicity, scalability, and ease of use. We are also providing an urban lab, community hub, and outward service offerings to drive the innovation agenda for specific focus areas such as edge computing, IoT, and autonomous vehicles. We are future-proofing the city to be adaptable to future trends and adaptable to the growing and changing needs of the market. So we look at the tech companies and not only the large enterprises, but also the smaller companies that need to be established. Education to support the pipeline, the environment that people work and live in. Transparency is paramount to us from a regulation perspective, and of course the infrastructure. District 2020 will attract leading innovators by offering an intelligent, responsive district built on frictionless physical and virtual collaboration. We are supporting innovation by enabling companies to be faster, more intelligent, and better connected with each other through the technologies that I mentioned.
A curated ecosystem of SME startups and large organizations will provide enabled partnerships and direct supply and cross-industry collaboration. So I'm going to stop a little bit on this slide because there's a lot that we're doing within our Connect, Create, and Innovate tagline, but it's beyond just a tagline. It's actually what we look at when we drive the business forward. So we are progressively utilizing technology innovation in a way that helps to address challenges, improve services, and it enables the community to function both smarter and more sustainably. The underlying ICT infrastructure, our telecom, networks, and data center will support the future growth ambitions of District 2020. High capacity, low latency, and speed of provisioning are all draw cards for future tenants together with competitive costs. New generation digital infrastructure will allow workers and residents to connect physically and virtually using the most progressive smart technologies, such as 5G, artificial intelligence, and IoT. Our sensors and networks enable smart metering and monitoring with digital feedback for energy and water consumption, sensors to monitor the efficiency of utilities. And that's really important here because utilities in this part of the world are expensive. Climate conditioning, noise, soil moisture, and waste levels. District will integrate smart mobility and advanced transport solutions such as autonomous vehicle transit routes that will connect the district and enable people to get around the district without having to drive their vehicles. We just launched a program called Scale to Dubai, which we're very excited about. And Scale to Dubai is about getting the world, so, you know, we host an event for 6 months. We've established a great relationship with 192 countries, and we want to maintain that relationship and enable that cross-pollination of ideas to continue. So in order to support our innovation strategy, we are allowing companies that are ready to scale to come into District 2020, 2 years, and we provide them 2 years free workspace, a 2-year visa, business setup, subsidized living, and they plug into that ecosystem that I was talking about, that we've got enterprises and technology companies and the enablers all there together. Now, for companies to be able to apply to the program, they need to be within our industries, preferably, or technologies, or even be an enabler that would help us to channel the startups and the scale-ups to Scale to Dubai. We are a free zone, and we are freehold, and that's for people that don't know in Dubai. For companies to set up and be 100% owned and operated by the individual, they usually go into free zones. So we are free zone, and we will continue to operate as a master developer. We're currently in the process right now already of speaking to our tenants and what we call our partners. And Siemens is moving their logistics global headquarters from Munich to District 2020. Accenture will be opening up a digital hub. DP World which is Dubai Ports World, which is one of the largest logistics companies in the world, will be opening up an institute, an educational institute. Atlas Capital out of Shanghai will be opening up a blockchain campus and will focus on invigorating the blockchain industry, which is a new industry to this part of the world. And ensuring that there's an opportunity for global blockchain companies to establish themselves within that campus. And also Merck is opening up their sustainability center. So they're branching out of pharmaceuticals and moving into the sustainable areas of business. So while we look at the future, we are completely focused on sustainable development, which extends beyond the infrastructure and digital solutions.
as sustainability is also a key underpinning of our approach and planning. District 2020 will grow over phases because we do have 2.5 million square meters of area that will be developed. And we will respond to and support the requirements and growth of the market in order to gradually support an estimated population of 145,000 when we are fully developed. So thank you very much for allowing me to share a little bit about Expo 2020 and District 2020 with you. And I look forward to welcoming you all to Expo 2020 in just a few months.
Thank you, Nadima, for that glimpse into the opportunity that awaits at the Expo 2020 in Dubai. What a fantastic potential to share technology, innovation, and culture. Thank you very much. I'd like to invite all of our speakers now to unmute and join us in the interactive portion of today's virtual conference, the Q&A session. So while our folks here are doing that, I'd like to remind everyone that you can submit your questions using either the Zoom Q&A tool or via the social channels using hashtag SIE_EXPO2020. That's 2020. And please don't use the chat tool in the Zoom because those questions will not be migrated over into the social media conversation, but all of them that are submitted with the hashtag will, as well as the Q&A portion. So I'd like to kick off our questions, and thank you. There's been an inrush of questions coming in, so I think the crowd is eager to pick everyone's brain, so to speak, on this topic. So the first one I'm going to throw out to our team is how does Expo 2020 Dubai, a blueprint for smart cities, plan to inform other cities around the world of the lessons that have been learned? And further to that, is there a physical blueprint? And if there any insight into cost and some of the expectations of existing infrastructure? Don't all jump at once.
You know what we do? I mean, the beauty here in Dubai is, I mean, we sit all of them on place at one table, but we have this lovely Java thing, in front of us. So we try to move it to the person who's going to take the question. Okay, so the question was about how do we make sure that we, whatever we learn from this blueprint activity, that actually other cities actually can benefit. Well, from a Siemens perspective, we are in the lucky position that we are active in 192 plus something like that countries, which is, by the way, also by coincidence, the number of participating countries at Expo. That means, on the one hand side, and I kind of explained or touched upon it already, using Expo as a platform in itself is a huge platform for sharing what we have in terms of technology, in terms of learnings. Secondly, it's also very clear that every project which is in the area of smart cities is evolving. It never stops. So that means we start with something like the technologies we selected, but together with District 2020, with Nadima and her team, we will make sure that the majority of the technology will live on, and we will be learning by doing. Now, and the third comment to your question is, I mean, we as a company, we are very active already in Hong Kong. We will bring Hong Kong on IoT by the year 2025, if I remember correctly, and Singapore by the year 2023. Don't quote me on that. It could be also the other way around. Upside, can you chip in? Do you remember that? 23, 25.
Yeah, 25.
So in addition to that, we've been working with several governments across the world, with mayors. And that's why, I mean, smart city development is very, very close to our heart. And as a company, I know I close my answer, or finish my answer. Again, as I said earlier, if you're active in all these countries, then of course you have the unique access. So, and whatever we learn, we feed back to our organizations in different countries. Whether it's via calls, whether it's via meetings, whether it's via conferences, in the end, it's all about sharing what you have.
Yeah. This is Afzal. I'll just add to what Oliver said. Just classic example. Greg, and the participants on the call. There's always a learning from the volume of and variety of data, the use cases what we actually presented to you. Just imagine if you take the learning of this and apply to various cities. Every city has its own challenge, But again, the learning what we're going to have with the technology, just imagine how many cities would have a 5G network, position as a service, and the ICT infrastructure what Expo event is actually investing in, and then for District 2020, for the future of the District 2020. So looking at that, there's a lot of learning what we have, and we can actually apply this to various cities. Just imagine the application itself, what we're developing for MindSphere, and the learnings we're going to have in terms of sustainability and other topics. We can actually bring this to other cities, and we can engage with other cities to achieve their aspirations of smart city. I know there's a lot of talk about smart cities, but what we're talking about is really tangible use cases where you can actually see the results. With that, actually, I hand over back to Greg.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the response. One question in parallel to this is, how can startups participate, or any organization for all that matters? Is there a path people can reach out to you folks or to Dubai 2020?
Absolutely, Greg. So just there was a question, I believe, around the cost of the infrastructure of Expo 2020. So across Dubai, because obviously we did have to build additional roadworks, et cetera, to be able to cater to all the visitors, there's about a spend of 40 billion dirhams. But that equates to roughly over, by 2030, 230 billion in revenue for the country across different things, construction sector, real estate, et cetera. That was an independent study that was concluded by a third party that provided with that, us that information. Sorry, 122 billion. So the question to startups is that they can go on the online marketplace right now and register themselves. You can access the online platform through Expo 2020 website and register your business there and participate in any tenders that go out. For Scale to Dubai, we're actually taking applications right now. So you can go on the District 2020 website and register your interest if you're interested to Scale to Dubai. And the first cohort of Scale to Dubai will begin in October 2021, and applications will close by I believe November 2020.
Fantastic, thank you. And we'll make sure that we get those ports out to the folks too, or the website, so that they know where to go. And there's been multiple questions. Yes, the content will be available from today, and it will be pushed out to all those that are in attendance and have registered. So fear not, you will get access to this information post-conference. Now, I'm going to switch gears a little bit more onto the business to consumer side from an interface standpoint. Several people are asking about the technology. And can you tell us about camera interfaces? Is video streaming to cloud enabled? So some of these features that are potentially out there that folks that are attending the event are going to be able to do. Can you speak at all to that level?
Oh yes, I can assure you, you can see the best of the security. It will be like airport-like security if you're visiting Expo. So you have a combination of CCTV cameras, perimeter solutions, analytics, number plate recognition system, facial analytics. And you can talk about. I can go on actually. It's a combination of technology which is Siemens and non-Siemens. So it's all coming into one command and control center where all alarms, events are managed. And this is tightly integrated with the Dubai Police Command and Control Center and Civil Defense for any incident management. So just imagine we're talking about up to 15,000 cameras and on-prem for this site for Expo 2020 site. Greg? Got it.
Okay, thank you. Another theme in our Q&A that's coming in. This is interesting. PP wants to know why so many IoT gateways and not a leveraging or a focus on 5G. So maybe if you could talk a little bit. I know 5G is a pretty intensive topic in the IoT space in today. So maybe a little bit of a flavor toward gateways versus 5G or how they collaborate.
Okay, so it's purely use case driven, right? Yes, 5G is there to help you out where needed, but again, there are a lot of data which is already generated in the network, which is on the fixed network, what we call about, which is on-prem. I'm not talking about cellular network, which is 5G. So we have a mix of both. For example, we have this entire IT infrastructure, getting the data from various sensors and systems and gateways, which is giving us the data. We are actually having the virtual IoT gateways in a way, running on virtual machines where we have IoT agents getting the data, and then we aggregate data from there on. So it's a combination of both. In Expo, we have public Wi-Fi up to 350,000 users can actually get access on any given day. So we have public Wi-Fi, we have 5G, we have fixed network. It's a combination of all of this, which is contributing to the infrastructure of Expo. That's what I said. You will not see a campus like this anywhere in the world. I'm super excited about this.
Well, you got me excited too. On the same flavor then in 5G, Ernesto's asking about autonomous driving. And I know we touched on transportation on a couple of the presentations, and Adama, I know you talked on it a little bit at a high level, but is there any activity or anything that's targeted to look at the actual driving aspect as opposed to, or maybe in addition to public transport?
For sure, autonomous transportation will feature in Expo. That will be more like a surprise package for visitors who are going to come and see us here. So yes, it will be there during the event phase. I don't want to give too many details because that's not supposed to be not surprise. But yes, in this 2020, as Nadine has mentioned, there is also a track for autonomous vehicle, which is planned post event phase. So yes, that topic is very much within there.
Yeah, we autonomous vehicles are not being used yet here on the roads. And so the planning of our development, especially with regards to the road arteries, is around the future-proofing element, where eventually autonomous vehicles will probably be the mode of choice, and therefore the planning for the streets needs to be a bit different. We have sprawling boulevards here, and we've brought that right back. They're much smaller in District 2020, which is a departure from other developments and other roads within the city. The other thing is, autonomous vehicles for us, that route that we talked about, it's a transit system. So it will allow people to just get around very easily. It's not like you can drive your car and go on this loop. It's more to enable people to not even have to invest in buying a car and being able to get around effectively and efficiently within not only District 2020, but connected to the broader divide. Got it.
Thank you, Adama. We've got a question coming in from one of the folks also, a little bit on data now. Does data from the command center, such as Desigo CC, automatically get pushed into MindSphere?
Yes, it's an interesting thing. I'll say we have, because we've taken the District 2020 into the design aspect when we started design for Expo 2020 event, because it's all about sustainability, having the technology, and we should allow the technology to easily actually take care when we move into future, which is District 2020. So we have close to 21 Desigo CC systems, but it's actually topped up with the central building management system, which is Desigo CC. So we are actually having a distributed architecture. So we're going to get the data from various systems, from various pockets of the site, roughly 100 plus buildings we're talking about. And then we are ingesting only aggregated data, not everything. This is where we are actually talking about the true IoT story here, not pushing everything what you have in the building into IoT and process it. Doesn't make sense at all. So what we're doing is we're just aggregating. We just take the meaningful data. We know what we need for various use cases, be it for sustainability, be it for operations, be it for alarms and notifications. So we bring the data and we ingest the data into MindSphere from Desigo CC.
Okay, thank you. Nicholas has got a question for us. It says, in general, how do you BOP with these solutions so that these innovations not only benefit larger or wealthy companies, people, etc., And are there any UN goals as a part of the strategy?
Absolutely. If you look at the, Dubai government, when they actually bid it for Expo project, actually they made a declaration which is actually very bold, I would say, to make this Expo the most sustainable Expo in the history of Expo. That's 162 years. So to do that, they have stringent KPIs. We are actually monitoring at 41 different KPIs right in the construction phase as we speak. So everything is looked into detail. What kind of material we are talking about, how much of water, energy, waste, and we are taking this sustainability very seriously. And not only that, actually, from there on, in the operations phase of events, we would be monitoring close to 21 different KPIs for sustainability alone. And topped up with what Nadima has said, we're talking about LEED and WELL and other certifications, SQL certifications coming into play. So there's a lot here in terms of actually measuring and looking into and bring the transparency what's needed, and also help the global cities to look at how we are able to manage this.
And let me add to what Afsa just explained, or let's build upon it. I mean, inclusivity is a major success factor in any smart city environment, and that is very much the case here in Dubai. Please don't forget, 80% of all the people living here in Dubai are foreigners. Dubai even has a ministry for happiness. That means there is a interaction with the government and the full backup by the government of everything we are doing here. And yes, Dubai is well on its way to develop from an oil-based economy into a knowledge-based economy. And Expo is one of the pacemakers in order to do that. If I just want to remind us of what Nadine shared with respect to the District 2020 plans.
All right, you struck a chord with me on that. That was an interesting response. And it looks like Alberto also had a question on this. When you're entertaining this many folks and pushing this kind of technology, I think the human brain is running at an exceptionally fast pace, and it needs to eat. So can you talk to the food and how that is going to be tied into the Internet of Things? So from a production or from a distribution standpoint, how do people eat at this expo?
So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to take technology right out of that. And I'm going to say, you don't need technology. We're going to have so many outlets all over the place. But I'm sure we'll figure out some clever way to get a robot to deliver food to you as you stand in line to go visit one of the pavilions. But, it is, the food and beverage element is an area that we've looked at very closely. We will have not only our outlets that we plan for, we've got everything from street food to gourmet cuisine available for the visitors, and also the pavilions themselves will have their own F&B, some of them within their space as well. So it is for those of you that enjoy your gastronomy. This will be a place that will satisfy the senses without technology.
And I can tell you something. I've been living here now for 2 years, okay, so not too long. But Dubai, even without Expo, is well known for high-class gourmet-like restaurants. When you move over here, you live here, I tell you, you will be spoiled. So, and that will be for Expo as well.
It's true. It's like reliving your freshman year all over again. You're going to gain the freshman 10 pounds or whatever it is.
Got it. The freshman 15 is coming. I'm a foodie at heart. That's outstanding to hear. I'm looking forward to
it. When we are in Expo, yeah.
Well, another interesting question. This just came in from Nicholas. Let's back up a little bit in the process that has led up to this. And I know Lucian alluded to this in the beginning, that IIoT World was able to participate in the initial planning sessions that went on over a year ago now. Talk to us a little bit about how connectivity and digital twins and technology has played into the construction part of this event. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, that's a key part. That's how Expo has actually started. That's how Expo has managed to do this planning and detail what we're talking about. If you look at Expo, every single building which is constructed has a build model, BIM model, which has got various loads of information about that. In terms of infrastructure, every vendor or a supplier has to adhere with that requirements of BIM. Plugging in the data and everything. And then we also have a GIS system at Expo, which has got all the details of the plots and information, GFA, you name it. So, and then from there on, there'll be something exciting that Expo will actually have for the visitors who are visiting here and the visitors who want to visit Expo virtually. So we're talking about a virtual reality coming into play. I cannot give any more information on that topic because it's supposed to be a surprise element. But what I can touch from our side of Siemens World, how we want to do that, we're going to have a mixed reality showcase. That means you can see the entire Expo constructed buildings where the data is generated. You can have the information on your fingertips using either mixed reality or a virtual reality. That means we're connecting the physical world virtually. You have all this information on your fingertips.
And that means also, and let me chip in here, that we basically, we will, with all this connectivity on Expo, we will satisfy all the demands people are having actually these days, inhabitants, because they want to have information available 24/7. They want to have comfort and safety and security, and that's what we're going to deliver.
We also, so there was a digital twin that was built for the Expo, and we took it a step further and built a digital twin completely from scratch for District 2020. And the reason for that is, obviously, we want to continue to monitor the development and the impact the development will have as part of our smart city strategy. And the digital twin is key for that. And for you to be able to experience it. So District 2020 will have an exhibition at the Expo, and we want people to be able to come to the Expo and imagine what this place will be like in 10 years' time, which is pretty cool because we've already envisaged it, and people will get a chance to immerse themselves in it and understand it.
That's an incredible opportunity for learning and sharing of knowledge, without a doubt. This question's popped up a couple different times, so maybe I'll ask it more succinctly. Information will be available after this conference, but what's the plan for, I hate to use the term in print, but some kind of a case study or something that is going to exemplify and illustrate all the work that you folks have just talked through? Is something like that more formally going to be prepared? Above and beyond outreach, organizations can reach in and become engaged, but is somebody going to capture all of the learnings from this in some kind of a study, and will that be available to the public?
So we have a department that is focused on archiving everything, and it's not just the journey right now, but it's also all the learnings and wonderful things that we're going to experience during the Expo that will be archived. We don't plan to have a blueprint that we will share. Currently, we've been working with mostly mega event organizers that want to understand best practices in planning, best practices in strategizing for the future of the space that they're going to use for their event.
I understand.
If I can add, actually, we have already published some articles how we're creating this blueprint for smart cities, and definitely I think we can also share our learnings once we actually deliver this event successfully. Like what were the key elements, what were the learnings with the broader community and other cities. Yeah, for sure that's also there. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Nadam and Aso, for the comments on that. I know we've talked about cloud to some extent. We've talked about data, and some of the statistics that you threw out there are staggering in terms of the amount of information that's generated. But we have another questions coming in around data lakes, big data on the streaming side. So Kafka's mentioned, as well as distributed intelligence. So can you, and I know you can't share all the things behind the scenes, also, but can you give us maybe a sneak peek or a comment to what's being deployed at the edge and how Siemens can help out with the data strategy for an implementation of this magnitude? Or Oliver, for that matters.
It's a combination. It's a combination of technology. So at Edge, we still treat DesiGo CPOS for access control, and Vantage for physical security command and control center, and so on and so forth. All of them are more like an edge applications, which are managing a lot of data. In terms of analytics, what we're looking at in MindSphere for use case, especially, we are going to bring all this data. We have data coming from OT, operational technology, and we also have data which is structured and semi-structured. Just to give an example, we just did a POC, before we got into this data lake topic. A bunch of Excel sheets, which data was been crunched. You can see 100 Excel sheets maintained on a monthly basis. We just pumped in that data into MindSphere to create a nice dashboard, right, out of that. So it's more like a semi-structured data. Just to give a touch, it's like CSV files just dumped in, and then we manage that from there on. We have a few use cases in pipeline, which takes data which is structured, semi-structured, and OT and IoT data. It's a classic IoT data, and then we are trying to actually correlate and contextualize. So we have a few use cases which are there as we speak. And for sure, in coming weeks and months, we will have more to add to that. Like I said, there are a few use cases I can't talk about on air for various reasons. For sure, yeah, I would say you would be seeing a combination of all of this when you see Expo, when the gates open, right? We will have actually an on-site activation area where we can have this, either government or business-to-business kind of meetings. We will host a variety of customers. I'll call it more like a Siemens area for interaction, where you not only see what's happening in Expo, but you can actually touch and feel and interact with our specialists. That means we can spend more time on that topic also.
Yeah, because actually we are very proud to say that we are one of the tenants of Expo 2020, and with that. We show our commitment on the one hand side, but we also continue our long-standing history and relationship here with the region. Just FYI, the company has been present in the region for 160 years, and here in the UAE specifically for more than 20 years.
Understood. I want to come back to a point that came up, and this is maybe speaking to the greener side of the initiative. And we talked about, obviously technological advancements and the sustainability component, which is admirable, way above and beyond admirable for this size of a venture. But I want to pin down or ratchet down on hydrogen a little bit, talk about green hydrogen. Could you possibly add some clarity, and once again, not to the level of definitive clients that you're working with, but what are the advantages or why is generating green hydrogen? Maybe to start with, what is green hydrogen for some of the folks that may not be deeply involved, but why is that a critical component of this exercise?
Okay. As I said earlier, what we're going to do is we pilot the first green hydrogen storage solution here in the region. Now, Dubai and the government of the UAE, they have specific ideas about how to increase the utilization of renewables over the next years. Actually, they have a very long-term agenda until the year 2030, for example. They want to increase the output of the Al Maktoum solar park from currently 400 megawatt to 5,000 megawatt, which means it's going to become the biggest solar park in the world. Now, however, if you use renewables in that region, and we are not talking about wind energy here, we are talking about solar, because wind for various reasons doesn't make sense, wind turbines. Mm-hmm. That means you got to find a way to let the sun shine at night. And that's why you need a storage solution. With batteries, considering also the climate conditions, batteries are well suited for short-term transportations for cars. That's possible. We also, the government of Abu Dhabi, they run a bus in order to test the batteries and the battery life in these regions. Of course, you have Tesla cars here, so that works to a certain extent. But hydrogen has the advantage of having much higher density, and you have the advantage to store energy much, 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 much longer. So that means for Dubai, and actually the UAE, that could be the beginning or the start of creating a hydrogen economy, which could be similar to what the Japanese did with respect to natural gas, because natural gas started in Japan. So this is a huge opportunity, but in order to make that happen, and that is, by the way, true for everything, what you do in the digital age, you got to pilot. So first we start with a small one with just 1.25 megawatt of output, and we are working very closely in a three-party agreement, actually. So despite the fact that Siemens provides that to Expo, the very same minute Expo receives it, and by the way, the equipment is already over here, is being installed, and now we're talking then about the implementation and commissioning, et cetera, et cetera. The moment the equipment arrived, it has been transferred to DEWA. And together with DEWA, which is the local electricity and water authority, and Expo and Siemens, we are establishing the hydrogen solution, as I said, at this Al-Maktoum Solar Park, but even more important, at the research facility. So over the next month, we will, following a tradition of Expo, being a testbed for innovation, we will test it here in the region, in the different climate conditions, despite the fact that our hydrogen solution is a proven technology already elsewhere in the world.
And just to add to what Oliver said, what is happening in the solar park, which is like 40 plus kilometers from Expo, what we want to do is also give you that look and feel, a virtual tour. So we are also working on how do we enable that and bring the data into Expo campus. We are working on that also to create that interaction to show how we are actually converting the solar energy into hydrogen and how is it performing at Expo campus. So we will be actually having some interactions for the visitors and people with technology background there.
So Dubai does have a Dubai Clean Energy Strategy 2050, and aims to generate 7% of Dubai's power from clean sources by 2020, and then 25% by 2030, and 75% by 2050. So it is something that we are working on and looking at.
Those are impressive targets, specifically for where Dubai resides in the globe. So that's an impressive target.
The good thing, I'm sorry, Greg. The good thing I learned about Dubai is they walk the talk. What they say, they do. So therefore, I'm pretty confident that this is actually going to happen.
Well, thank you for that. Maybe I'll end on one question here. It's more of a general perspective, but it's a common discussion that smart cities don't utilize technology to enable human well-being. Now, we've talked a little about food to some extent and some of the other aspects as well, but can you speak to that, possibly, Nadima, on how District 2020 is going to tackle that?
Absolutely. So one of our key areas that we look at is creating what we call a human-centric city. So for us, a smart city is not a gimmicky term where we say it's smart city and it's filled with gadgets and gizmos. More and more research has shown that people actually want to be part of a community. They want to be connected. They want to interact with each other, because more and more we're isolated as a result of technology. So it's a double-edged sword. So what we do is we speak with our partners like Siemens and try to come up with solutions that, first of all, from a business perspective, we would utilize technology to enable collaboration through a digital marketplace, a digital community, so that people can not only communicate face-to-face and interact, but have the opportunity to continue those interactions through this online community that we would have. It's also a very inclusive community. So, you know, one thing I don't like, the word clusters makes me nervous. We're not a cluster. We're a place where people live, where children will go to school, where children will visit, and you know, in 20 years' time, remember that an expo happened here 20 years ago, and be able to visit all the attractions. But also we will have enterprises, large enterprises like Siemens, working alongside smaller enterprises and startups that will hopefully be the future unicorns, or companies that Siemens and our other partners will collaborate and innovate with. So for us, technology is a conduit to enable that sense of community.
Thank you for that. That's a great clarification. So with that final comment, I would like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today. And thank you to our speakers, also Oliver and Nadima, some great insights. And I think that the entire audience, as well as myself and the folks here at IoT World, are looking forward to Dubai 2020 and beyond. Please stay tuned for other educational webcasts brought to you by IIoT World. And as a reminder, you can secure briefings with our editors, analysts, and co-founders during the upcoming events over the next several months, some of which are the Power of Digital Twins in Industrial IoT, which is taking place January 30th, 2020, Distributech in San Antonio, Texas, January 23rd to 30th, ARC Advisory Forum, Orlando, Florida, February 3rd to 6th, Light and Buildings in Frankfurt, Germany from March 9th to the 13th, Hannover Messe in Hanover, Germany, April 20th to 24th, and save the date for a special IIoT World Global Day, June 30th. It will be the largest industrial IoT virtual event in the world. A full-day virtual summit dedicated to accelerating the rate of adoption of industrial IoT. Special thanks to our sponsor, Siemens, for this educational session. And if you have a suggestion for a topic or otherwise, we welcome feedback, so drop us a message and let us know. And if you like what you heard today, we invite you to subscribe to our newsletter, YouTube channels, and follow us on Twitter at IIoT_world. This concludes our program for today. Thank you for attending.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. Thank you.